Tropical Storm Chantal now reigns as our most organized system of the 2025 hurricane season. And I know on the surface that doesn't sound like much. It was a 60-mile-an-hour tropical storm in comparison to tracking Hurricane Beryl right around this time last hurricane season. This is pretty typical. And I would honestly say that Tropical Storm Chantal was your textbook, your bona fide iteration of what a homegrown tropical feature would look like. And to tell you the truth, it kind of overperformed as well. A lot of folks are voting it off before it even hit the game board. And then once it did, it really optimized the conditions that it had in play to develop into a mid-grade tropical storm, which is precisely what we were thinking was the ceiling for this event. It either becomes a potential tropical cyclone, just so we can get some of the watches and warnings, advisories out for this feature off our southeast coastline, or its max potential could be a mid-range tropical storm, and that's what we saw. Those warm water temperatures right off our coast, both thanks to the Gulf Stream and that dominant subtropical high that just didn't go anywhere from late May and pretty much all the way through June, really helped to cook some things up out there. So let's get you over to the final advisory. This system has just about come and gone. Here it is. Ignore the next track at 11 a.m. We're not going to get another track. National Hurricane Center has given us the bon voyage to Tropical Depression Chantal. You can see here that per 5 a.m., we had winds in the center, what's left of it, sustained at 30 miles an hour. It's a remnant low now, still moving off towards the northeast at about 15 miles an hour. Dropping a lot of rain for the mid-Atlantic. We've got a lot of flash flooding in effect. Warnings are active as we speak. And we're going to continue to see this thing kind of percolate up there as it picks up forward speed, being grabbed once again by the jet stream that helped to plop the front that developed it initially early on off towards the east as well. And then I kind of wanted to leave you with this. Where do we go from here? We're now into July. We've had 3 named storms. You take a look at our tropical satellite, and there's nothing cooking out there. But we are still watching. And in fact, the main takeaway from this video today is if you're still putting the preps and the game planning on the back burner, take advantage of this reprieve that Mother Nature is going to give us. I'm not thinking we're going to get very much of anything out there in the tropics, at least for another week, 2 weeks, maybe 2 weeks and some change. Going to have a couple dates thrown at you here momentarily, so if you have a pen and paper or want to open up the notes on your phone, feel free to do so, but I'm going to show you a couple things. First and foremost, let's go over to my desktop. These are our water temperature anomalies, courtesy of weatherbell.com. And if you notice, our blue shades that were initially found right through the region where we watch for tropical waves that may try to develop, those shades of blue have been given a little nudge towards the north. They're now well into the subtropics. Our pressure pattern, our high pressure over the Atlantic, which was also hurling the dry, warm conditions over us in central Florida and the southeast for a long period of time there, that's kind of broken down a little bit. The pattern flip that we saw over North America that brought the front down, developed Chantal, that's kind of done a number on our overall gradient, if you will, driving our winds and our temperatures, not only over the United States, but over the Atlantic as well. And I'll go ahead and rewind to about June 6th, and I want you to notice the difference. See all those blue shades that are down just off to the east of the Lesser Antilles through the main development region, as it's called, from the Eastern Caribbean to the west coast of Africa. You fast forward and notice how those blues have suddenly been pushed closer to the Azores Islands in the eastern North Atlantic. Now, the MDR, where we monitor for the sea surface temperatures and the subsurface temperatures, we're starting to see a little bit of warming. And model guidance does suggest that it could continue for at least another 14 to 20 days. Then we're back into the game of whether or not this fades. And it's kind of interesting because July will typically tell us everything that we need to know about the hurricane season. And I think by the middle of the month, there's your first little note there, by July 15th, we'll have to take a real close look at what the configuration is, not only in terms of our temperatures out there, but our steering patterns, the winds, not only from just the tropics, but all the way up through to the United States, because that'll tell us a lot of what to expect when things get going in the month of August. On top of that, if you look here, this is going to be a velocity anomaly chart. Velocity meaning the speed with which our air is rising or sinking. Where you see the shades of oranges and yellows, the tan colors, we're sinking, we're suppressed. not going to be a lot of action. But then when you see the teals and the blues and the other vibrant colors opposite of the reds, that's where you start to come under your more favorable conditions. You get a lot more of that upward motion, which supports thunderstorms and tropical action. And if you notice, there's two things here. Number one, we're going to be watching for another pass of the Madden-Julian oscillation. Head over to clickorlando.com. You can either search me, meteorologist David Nazario, or search Madden-Julian oscillation, and you'll get a little bit of a lowdown on what that is if you've never heard of it up until this video. We have another pass that's forecast to happen between, here comes the next round notes if you're taking them, about the 19th to the 22nd of July is when that'll start to sneak into our area. We'll come into what's called the more optimal phases of the MJO to produce a little bit of extra moisture, give our atmosphere a bit more, get our atmosphere a little bit more excited to try to develop convection and thunderstorms that could possibly set off couple of the tropical waves that may be meandering out there in the pattern. And then if you look down towards the lower left-hand corner of this chart, it's a little interesting. It's difficult for some of you out there to read. The main thing is, as you go down the chart, you're going forward in time. It's kind of a time phase, time location chart. At the bottom there, you see the equatorial regions of the planet Earth rolled out. Instead of a globe, it's rolled out like a flat map on a table. You start with Africa, and then furthest to the right, you've got the Atlantic Ocean. And at the top portion where your colors are, if you see the reds or the blues at any given time over that area, that's where you're either seeing the rising motions or the sinking motions. So on top of the MJO coming through as we get towards the end of July, the last 2 weeks, give or take, I'm already monitoring a couple signals. We also are starting to see the African standing wave, rising motion that gets focused over Africa, the Indian Ocean, the Middle East, which produces our tropical waves. Notice the shades of blue there, bottom left corner, right over top that region. So that's also a pivotal marker that we tend to watch for when it comes to the hurricane season, especially the peak of the hurricane season. So again, if your preps are still on the back burner, take advantage of this 2-week hiatus, if you will, between sloppy tropical systems. I do think as the gates of April open up, blooper, as the gates of August open up, that's when I do think we're going to see what the peak of the hurricane season truly has in store for all of us.